Okay, I forget.
I'm Jamie Mountford and this is my presentation on roles, responsibilities, skills, styles of a sports coach. Roles. The first role I'm going to speak about is an innovator. An innovator in sport would introduce a new person into new and different sports. An innovator would need to be creative in many ways. One, for example, providing new strategies and to improve your team or outsmart your opponents. Also, an innovator needs to be exciting so the performers don't get tedious. That is the definition of an innovator. A friend. A friend in sport will not only be a friend inside the sport but also out. This kind of role of a sports coach could help with the psychological side of the sport, like if a performer needs to speak about anything, personal issues that a friend could help with, or inside the sport which a friend could give feedback, good or bad, and analyse the performance of the performer. A manager. A manager is in charge of organising and scheduling of the team. The manager will have other staff at the club or organisation that will report back to him or her on players' progress or status. The manager is very important. He tells all the staff members on what they need to do in terms of coaching, training regimes and players' work and effort in training. The manager needs to be well prepared, well organised in terms of equipment, a venue to train. It is important that the manager is able to stay in a good relationship with players and help the players to become cohesive. Other side of being a manager, the manager will have to discipline players if they act in the wrong behaviour. For example, Tony Pulis. Another aspect of the manager, for example, Tony Pulis used to coach Stoke City and play into their strengths, which was the long ball, unattractive way of playing football. But Arsene Wenger, on the other hand, tells Arsenal to keep the ball on the floor and pass playing attractive football. A trainer. A trainer in sports is similar to the manager in some roles they play. For example, preparation and planning. A trainer prepares players for competition, physical status, which may be fitness development, or the type of training they put them through in order to keep them in their best physical stature. They also have a major role in injury prevention. In order to be a good trainer, they need to have a lot of knowledge in that sport, whether that's from studying the sport or they will want an elite performer. A role model. A role model can be very important to people, especially in younger ages. For example, a 5-year-old boy may look up to David Beckham and want to be him or have his lifestyle. Even though famous and successful people are more likely to become a role model to younger ages, family members, managers, coaches and teachers could also be a role model. A role model needs to be representative, effective and a promoter to that sport and good behaviour, and also advocate, someone who publicly supports, recommends that sport. For elite performers who had role models when they were younger but have grown up and become greater than them, this could cause confusion because they have no one to look up to reach their level because they are past it. An educator. An educator in sport needs to be knowledgeable to guide a performer in what to do in a given situation. Insightful in that elite performer's career, experience so then they could help to guide the performer in the right direction, and qualified and supporting the athlete performer in good and bad situation. An educator in sport could also be a role model. Your role model could help the performer to improve his or her knowledge in that given sport. Responsibility of the sports coach. Legal obligations. Level 1 coaching badge. A coach who has a level 1 coaching badge needs to be supervised by another qualified coach. A level 2 coaching badge, this coach is qualified to coach a group of participants on their own. A CRB check. This is to ensure that you are legal to work with participants. For example, if a person was trying to become a coach and they were on the sex offenders list, they would not be able to become a coach because of the offence they are committed. Negligence. This is to ensure that a coach is not neglecting the participant that needs their help. For example, if a participant gets injured and the coach doesn't take suitable action to help the participant, this could be negligence. Professional conduct. Relationships. Open, honest relationships, not being too close, whoever the participants are. This means keeping professional and not going over the boundaries. The rights, respecting every participant the same regardless of gender, age, religion and skin colour. Responsibilities, personal. Not letting problems outside of work to take an effect on how you perform at work. Also, coaches should encourage a positive image, cleanliness and functional efficiency. Coaches also must be fair and honest and considerate to every participant, also encourage high standards of language, manners, punctuality, and not drinking, smoking or taking drugs before or while coaching. Professional. Keeping your mind set on what you need to do, not losing focus. Also ensuring the facilities are safe to use. Encourage correct techniques, correct practice, and gaining recognised government qualifications for the appropriate level of the participants. Also, following the guidelines of governing bodies of the sport or employer and planning all sessions to meet the needs of the participants with progression added. Health and safety, risk assessments. Making sure that whatever risk there is are explained in the chance that risk could happen. For example, if the coach is coaching inside in a sports hall, water may have leaked and a participant could slip over and injure themselves as a result of this. First aid provision. Checking the first aid box to make sure everything is in there and stocked up. If a participant becomes injured and the correct equipment is not in the first aid box, the coach cannot treat the participant and may be liable for prosecution. Warm-ups and cool-downs. Having the correct warm-ups and cool-downs to ensure the participant prevents injury and muscle tightness. Equal opportunities. Coaches must give everyone a fair chance regardless of the ability of the participants. Also, the participants must have the same access to the equipment, same amount of teaching and the same amount of facilities. Sex discrimination laws do allow sports, games or other activities of a competitive nature to have single-sex competitions if the physical strength, stamina or physique of the average woman puts her at a disadvantage to the average man. Case law established that this applies to children as well as adults. This means that schools can have separate boys and girls teams for some sports and separate girls and boys in sports lessons, but only if these could be said to be of a competitive nature. Knowledge of a coaching environment. Qualifications. Having the appropriate qualifications, coaching badges to be able to coach the level participants. Well-planned sessions. Ensuring the session is well planned with progression throughout the session to go smoothly and the development of the participants. Own development as a coach. Learning the capability of the participants and also learning what does work well in sessions and what doesn't. Keeping up to date, keeping a record of what sessions you have already done with the participants so you ensure progression of other sessions. Skills and styles of the sport of the coach. Communication. Being a good coach is not just about developing skills and improve the participant's performance. Communication is a two-way process, talking and listening. While talking and giving out information to the participants is very important, listening is also very important. Planning and organising. Sports performers can become very tedious very quickly with a poorly planned, organised session. The ability to create an effective session plan is very important in increasing the performer's ability and performance. Improving the performer's performance can be also done if the coach identifies needs and goals of each performer and use these for the basis of the session. The coach will also need to include progression so the performers can improve their performance. Analysis and evaluation. Analysis is another good component central to the coaching process and therefore key coaching skills. Coaches need to analyse the technical and tactical aspects of performance, the physical condition and mental skills of the performer, the extent to which goals have been achieved, as well as their own coaching performance. The skills, knowledge and experience of the coach are often required to revise practices to meet the changing needs of demands of the performers. Styles of a sports coach. Autocratic. This kind of coach encourages discipline and training, also allows a little room for negotiations, but the final decision is made by the coach. This style of coaching provides a lot of external motivation. Some athletes may feel intimidated by this approach, even if the elite performers admire the coach. Athletes who want this style of coaching will typically be more successful as they develop discipline. Democratic. This coach encourages elite performers to make decisions about training for themselves, but gives a little guidance also. This type of style, the coach will emotionally support but sets the elite performer to drive goal setting. The democratic coach will use an interactive approach to training. This type of coach works the best with experienced and independent athletes that require special training needs. Laissez-faire. This coaching style lets the performers to basically get on with it. The coach offers very little guidance and no direction, but offers a lot of freedom and power to the performers as possible. But as a result of this, the performers may have to determine goal, make decisions and resolve problems on their own or in a team if possible. These are my evaluative sessions. Session 1 was badminton. In the strengths, I turned up to the session making sure I looked professional and I also provided a session plan and checked the venue. At the start of the session I introduced myself to the participants and identified what we were doing in that session. I then told all the participants to gather around whilst I and a volunteer demonstrated how to execute a smash shot efficiently. I then let the participants to choose a partner and practice this kind of shot. After 5 minutes I observed, I gathered the participants in again. I corrected some of the participants' technique and gave some coaching points and let them go off and try the shot again. A few minutes later I gathered the participants in and then demonstrated an overhead drop shot. I repeated what I did on the first shot. Throughout the session I gave coaching advice, techniques, and also I offered positive and negative feedback when I needed to. I used my space efficiently as I had 4 badminton courts set out for only 12 participants. Weaknesses of the session. At the start of the session I did not check for any injuries of the participants. I also did not use appropriate language, as I said, just whack it down towards the floor. The last activity I told them they could go into a rally which wasn't session related, and I also left too much time between swapping shots and some of the participants got tedious and started not doing what I asked of them. Areas of improvement. To remember, ask, check for any injuries of the participants, I could write down a reminder note on my session plan. Using appropriate language instead of using slang, thinking about what to say before I actually do to the participants. The last activity I did in my session I could have made session related, for example. You could only score a point if you use a smash shot or an overhead drop shot. And to stop the participants from getting tedious, I could do more or different activities to keep the session fresh and running smoothly. Session 2, football. Strengths. I turned up to the session making sure I was professional. I also provided a session plan and checked the venue. At the start of the session I introduced myself to the participants and identified what we were doing in that session, and also asked questions on 3 different areas of the foot that could be used to pass a ball. Before I let the participants to go and try each passing drill, I demonstrated an effective way on how to execute that pass correctly with a member of the group. I then watched and observed to see if they were executing the pass correctly. If not, I would advise and correct their techniques. A couple of days before I had to do my session, I checked with the teacher to see how many participants roughly I would have. I then checked and ensured that I had the right amount of balls, bibs and cones. Throughout the session, I felt like I had the attention of the performers. I communicated clearly, my use of language was appropriate to the age and level of the participants. As the session was going into the later stages, I gave encouragement and praise when I needed to. I also gave instructive feedback, such as movement and passing in triangles. On one of my activities, I took a step back and observed the participants, and I found out that they were struggling a little because the area wasn't big enough. I then asked all the participants if they wanted me to expand the area to make it a little bit easier. Throughout the session, I positioned myself to allow participants observe what I was telling them to do. Whilst I positioned myself in the correct place, I was maintaining good activity and enthusiasm throughout the session. Weaknesses. Before I started any activity, I forgot to ask and check the participants for any injuries. I did not use space I had effective enough as I could have done. I did not use the participants, and I did not make individual contact with all of the participants. In my session, I did not identify key coaching points and differentiate skills based on ability or demonstrate appropriate progression. Areas of improvement. I could make a note to make sure I asked and check participants for any barriers on why they cannot participate. I could have used the space more effectively, but providing a small area for a possession game. As I was demonstrating the passing drills, I could have asked names and then used participants by their names instead of identifying them by the objects of clothing. I also could have done more one-on-one coaching to either help people or progress in whatever they were doing. And to identify key coaching points, I could have coached game situations based on ability. Maybe references. And that's the end.
Thank you.